Hey everyone, this is Rob with MMORPG.com. After much tomfoolery, we finally got the stream up and running. We had a little audio issue that kind of popped up out of nowhere there. Had a conflict, got it resolved. Apologize for the late start. I'm here with Ethan Casner of Stained Glass Llama.
Hi.
Hi. How are you, Ethan?
Still warm the blood that courses through my veins. How you doing, Rob?
It would be better if my computer, also known as XSplit, I will blame XSplit because I changed nothing. And it's a piece of shit most days. So, other than that, I'm okay. So, welcome back. Thanks to
Good to be
Kites
back.
in the channel. So, why don't you tell us a little bit about Stained Glass Llama and what you guys are doing with Divergence-Online?
Stained Glass Llama is mostly me, but it's sort of like when you want it to be like a team effort, so you credit everything to the team, even though they kind of come and go once every other month or something. But it is the vehicle for Divergence-Online. It's going to stay that way. Its sole purpose is essentially just creating this MMORPG, so anyone who's involved in that process is a part of it. And Divergence is our game. It's our proto game right now, obviously. That's why you get that big nasty disclaimer on the front, which is essentially you're playing an early thing, so don't be a chode, but very few people are chodes. So.
Chode is not a term you hear very often.
No. I should have put that in the disclaimer also, but...
Don't be a chode.
Yeah.
The only time
Simple etiquette.
The only time I ever heard anybody use it was in reference to people that were in the army. So, anyways, we're looking at different classes here. We got a combat synthetic, a veritor, a vindicator, an male, an male, a homo sapien, and a military synthetic.
All those those are essentially just testing characters. So
Yeah.
we threw those in there for like the one video where the lizard folk were running around wrecking havoc. You know, I put those in there so people could just choose them as pre-mades. Like Star Wars Galaxies, it's not going to have any actual classes. It'll all just be professions. You can get to that key with K once you're in the game on the keyboard. But most of those are races, and they're just a few, placeholder ones for right now, just for testing.
Sounds great. So why don't you tell us a little bit about Divergence? What's the backstory before we hop in and actually take a look at the game?
300 odd years in the future, essentially. It's a alien planet that spins the wrong way, and it's got one of other two things wrong with it. So humans, aliens, synthetics are all showing up to pretty much investigate it. Different civilizations, all very different civilizations. They all had a different idea of what should happen. There's three of the primary factions that were there were Omicron, Systems Integrated, which is just Omicron or OSI for short. Sort of a benevolent Federation-style Terran, which Terran is a term we use to describe not just humans, but humans and synthetics, since we all share Earth now. And they're the closest thing to good guys as you're kind of going to get. Players can align with that faction if they want to. Everything's all nice and bright, white and clean. They've got the best technology, the best shields and everything else. And you can align with them if you want to, or nobody. And then we've also got Darius Conrad, which is kind of our attempt at a Wayland Yutani. Very corporate, very, it's all about, their listing on our page is actually just the bottom line, Some people like that, some people don't. We're just giving people more options. And then we've also got Viconia Rytech, which is just VR Tech for short, which is, no one's really 100% sure. It's mostly just a traveling confederation of nomadic warriors, essentially, that follow a bunch of loosely put together codes. And so you can play Order, you can play Corporate, you can play Disorder, and any variation in between, because each faction is run by players specifically. We've all got players that have really stood up on the forums and put in the time, and after a while we finally come up to them and say, hey, how'd you like to be in charge? It was something that we did in Anarchy Online way, way, way back in the day that they finally did away with, and nothing's really ever tried that since, and we really wanted to give that a shot here. So whatever happens with that faction specifically is determined by the players, whether they expand and take over the whole world, whether they're completely annihilated because their leader only logs in once a week. It's out of our hands. We're basically trying to accomplish the like I put in the Kickstarter, the truest form of sandbox that could exist.
So you mentioned Anarchy Online. Is this kind of influenced by some of the play style that you had at Anarchy Online?
Playstyle, probably not so much, but as far as story and details, absolutely, yeah. I mean, that was the first game that I worked with way back in the day, and I'm not going to take credit for Omnitech, but I was one of the people who enjoyed to work with them on that very much until they laid off everybody who didn't work in Norway, unfortunately. But I always said if I ever did my own game, I was going to port any part of that Omnitech culture that I could over here, and that's a large part of where one of the factions, Omicron, comes from, how everything's all clean and sleek and super advanced, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't have to just play that one if you don't want to. You could play one of the other factions or none. There are benefits and disadvantages to being with organizations specifically. You gain all of the protections of the factions, which is kind of an important thing in a game like this where, you know, death can be permanent depending on your situation. But you can strike out on your own, and when you do things, it doesn't impact your faction with the other ones, and it also doesn't benefit your faction. Some people might like to do that. Pretty much all criminal organizations, I assume, will probably go that route. But again, you don't get those protections too. You run to, if you're Omicron, you run to VRTech guards. You know, they'll probably just applaud whoever it is that's trying to kill you. And that's if they're not at open war. Otherwise, they will just kill you. You know.
Okay, you did mention that Kickstarter. I want to briefly talk about that, or at length if you want.
Sure.
You've got about 24 days left on your Kickstarter. You guys are asking for about $15,000. You're at about $5,000. I guess one of the questions I have for you is that $15,000, I mean, depending on how you look at it, it's a big number, but it's also a small number compared to what everybody else out there with a
incredibly
Kickstarter
small number, yeah.
So what do you hope to accomplish with the $15,000?
Well, this is our second one, and I knew how much I wanted to put together for this, which is kind of an undisclosed amount, over $100,000, but we didn't really have the huge following that a lot of other projects do before they start it, like the DAOC remake. You know, there are millions of people waiting for that to happen. So I decided to do the first one, what we call our kickoff, or our Kickstarter. We called it a Kickstarter at the time because it was just supposed to. It was a startup campaign, essentially. It said, if we get this amount of money, I will show you something that I hope you've never seen before, essentially. And a lot of people did end up going in for it. Not a huge amount. We got 24,000 and some change. And then we spent the next 4 months basically saying, okay, well, let's see how far we can go with that. And ended up getting a lot further than I really expected. And most of that is just due to the aforementioned, well, I mean, you and I talked about it before the stream, the ridiculous hours spent, you know. Mm-hmm. And got a lot farther. And we actually quoted people as, you will have these characters and you'll be able to play as early as September. And we were doing it in July. And I figured, you know what, we might as well just go ahead and start our next campaign right now and just pick up where we left off. And that's what we've done so far. So it's essentially, I could have put in a larger amount. I really would like to get about $35,000 to get the stuff that we want to get done. But there's only a penalty for having a higher amount. There's no negatives. Like if I had really decided to be a jerk, I could have just set it at $10 and they would say, congratulations, you met your goal, and you get to keep everything after that. Why more people don't do that, I do not know, you know. But so when you look at $15,000 in this one, that's really just kind of like the bare minimum. I'm sure it'll make that sometime before it's closed. And then we're going to take all of that and just expand on everything that you're going to see here when you get into the game and so on. I'd like to do just maybe one more. Oh, you are in the game?
Yeah, I'm walking around. I have been for a while now. It's dark out, so it's kind of hard to see some of the terrain. I've got some glow effects, so I can kind of follow my character.
Well, we can fix that.
His ankles are red. First thing I did when I logged into the game was I climbed a tree.
Yeah, you can climb trees.
It was pretty interesting. I spawned right next to a tree and started walking up it.
Yep, well, I'm looking for you right now so we can meet up here. And
when I say walking, I'm literally walking.
Okay, you can hold
running.
left You can hold left shift with your pinky and you'll run.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah. Now where is this crazy guy running around my jungle here?
I am a robot. This is probably... I got some kind of frond looking stuff. I don't know if this is very junglish.
Let's see here.
I think I found like an encampment.
Okay, how big are the buildings? Actually, you know, I'm an idiot. I can just load up the stream and look and see where you're at.
They're maybe about 3 times the size of me. Let's see. GM Judge Fudge firing range.
Okay, I know where you're at then. Just as soon as I loaded up, it went to commercial, but I know where you're at there.
Fuck y'all motherfuckers want. I don't know, Samuel Jackson and the Wizard of Oz. It's interesting.
That was just we threw that in there and didn't tell anybody someday, or one day, because we're just wanted to see how easily we could allow the integration of just random pictures into decorations for people's houses and stuff.
That's pretty cool. Rest assured, Canada, I am still the liquor.
Yep. The Canadians get that. Not a lot of Americans watch Trailer Park Boys, but they really should, because it's absolutely hilarious.
It really does suck. Oh, hey, the bald man just creeped up behind me.
That's me clapping.
Cracking his knuckles. Now he's clapping.
Yep. Yeah, our one of our other GMs, Judge Fudge, put this here because everyone was running around shooting up his stuff.
Yeah.
And he figured it was better to just let them do it here.
Okay, so what can I really, you know, I mean, it's a sandbox, so there's not really a whole lot of anybody telling me what I have to do. What can I do?
Okay, well, face this direction over here if you could. You see this thing there?
Yep.
Okay.
Throwing some fireballs in my face?
Yep.
It's not very nice.
Gotta hit it at a certain angle. And there's some in the background. You really just gotta hit them at the right angle for right now for some reason, but there you go. Yeah, they blow up?
Yeah. Okay.
Here's how you do this kind of stuff. This was our super secret thing from the very first campaign. I said if I get over $20,000, that'll give us what we need to put this super secret stuff in there. And I was very cryptic about it because I didn't want to do what other games did and say, oh yes, certainly we can do this, even if I wasn't sure at the time. So essentially what it is, and people have seen this before, but I don't think they've seen it in a game like this where you have this much freedom, is you start the layer of blocks, you see? This is the foundation for all civic construction in our game right here, essentially. Put them down. There's a bunch of different kinds you can do it, and I'll show you some stuff people have made in just a minute. Get my happy self up here. As you can see, they blow up. You can hold C and walk over them to collect them. That gives you some of the material back. Not all of it, but some anyway. Make a mistake, you can just right-click on it, and there it goes. Make another layer. And say you got a nice foundation to work with there. So that's nice. What else can I do? You can... If you could make an entire structure out of just this material that we call ferrocrete out of blocks, if you want to, out of many different colors and traits. Some of them have more resilience to destruction than others and provide you more protection. Different factions have different formulas, we call them, of it, you know. And you can make them out of just those if you want to and burrow out your windows and your skylights or whatever you want to do. Or...
It's a pretty decent looking palm tree right there, by the way.
Thank you. Spent some time on that too. Or the next step is, you know, suppose you've made a basic structure to protect your stuff from lizard folk and other players and so on. And now you're getting a decent amount of crafting going, you're getting some materials in and so on, or you just want to just straight buy them up from an architect. Next step is to actually craft those into wall modules. Or window modules, or whatever you want to do. Got to align them a little bit. There you go. I got some